The Book of Micah, Justice, Mercy, and Walking Humbly, with a side of sarcasm. Welcome to the Book of Micah, a 7-chapter gem nestled in the Minor Prophets where the prophet Micah gets real about injustice, false leaders, and the importance of walking humbly with God. Micah might be small, but don't let that fool you. It's packed with bold truths, hopeful promises, and just a sprinkle of divine sarcasm to keep things interesting. If you've ever wanted to hear God's take on bad politicians, fake prophets, and people being generally awful to each other, this book's for you. Spoiler alert. God's not having it, but he's still full of mercy and promises of restoration. Chapter 1. Hey, Judah and Israel, we need to talk? Micah starts off with some straight-up fire from God, calling out both Judah and Israel for their sins. It's like God saying, okay, I've seen enough, and it's time to have a little chat. The problem? Idolatry, injustice, and corruption are rampant, and God's not thrilled about it. Micah paints a picture of God coming down from his holy mountain like a storm, trampling the high places. It's not exactly a warm and fuzzy start. Think of it as that we need to talk text that no one wants to get. But hey, when you're worshiping idols and treating people terribly, you kind of expect a divine intervention, right? Micah's point is clear. Sin has consequences, and ignoring God's commands is going to lead to some serious destruction. But don't worry, there's still hope on the horizon. Just not quite yet. Chapter 2. Woe to the bad guys and their land grab schemes. In Chapter 2, Micah turns up the heat on the wealthy landowners who are scheming to steal land from the poor. These guys are literally lying awake at night thinking up ways to take what doesn't belong to them. And God? Yeah, he's not cool with it. Micah says, woe to those who plan iniquity, to those who plot evil on their beds. God sees their shady dealings and he's about to turn the tables. He basically tells them, you want to steal land? Well, guess what? You're going to lose it all. Cue the mic drop. But then we get a little sarcasm. Micah imagines what the false prophets might say to defend the evildoers. Do not prophesy? Disgrace will not overtake us? These so-called prophets were like today's shady influencers, sugarcoating everything to make the bad guys feel good about themselves. But Micah's not buying it. God's truth doesn't work that way. Chapter 3, Micah's roast of the leaders and prophets. If you thought Micah was done, think again. Chapter 3 is all about calling out the leaders and false prophets who are leading the people astray. The leaders are described as tearing the skin off the people and chopping them up like meat for the pan. Yikes, clearly they're not exactly looking out for the common good. As for the false prophets, Micah's got a pretty harsh critique for them too. These guys are preaching peace when they've got food in their mouths. But if someone doesn't pay up, they're quick to prophesy doom. It's like a bad Yelp review. Pay them and everything's fine. But miss a tip and suddenly the end is near. God's message through Micah? Justice matters. Integrity matters. And if you're a leader, you better take that seriously, because God does. Chapter 4. Hope on the horizon? Finally, some good news. Just when you think Micah's all doom and gloom, Chapter 4 drops a glimmer of hope. Micah starts talking about the last days when the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established, and people from all nations will come streaming in to learn about God. This is the Micah equivalent of, things are bad now, but there's a better future ahead. God promises to bring peace and restoration, where people will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Translation, war will be a thing of the past, and people will live in peace. Finally, a breath of fresh air. Chapter 5, the promise of a ruler from Bethlehem. Remember the Christmas story? Well, Micah's the guy who foretold it. In Chapter 5, he drops a prophecy about a ruler coming from Bethlehem, the smallest of Judah's clans. This ruler will shepherd God's people and bring peace. Hint, this is a Jesus prophecy. Micah's saying that even though things are a mess right now, God's got a plan. A savior is coming, and he's going to fix everything that's broken. It's like God saying, hang in there, I've got a surprise in store for you, and it's going to blow your mind. Chapter 6, God's courtroom drama, featuring a Micah classic. Chapter 6 is one of the most famous sections of Micah, and for good reason. It's basically set up like a courtroom scene where God is laying out his case against Israel. And what's his beef? The people have forgotten all the amazing things he's done for them, and they're acting like they can just make it up with a few sacrifices. But here's the twist. God doesn't want their sacrifices. What he really wants is simple: to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Boom, there it is. That's the heart of Micah's message right there. It's not about religious rituals or checking off a list of good deeds. It's about justice, mercy, and humility. If you're looking for a life motto, you just found it. Chapter 7. Hope, even when it's dark. The final chapter of Micah wraps up on a hopeful note. Yes, things are dark. Yes, the people have messed up. But Micah ends with a reminder that God is full of mercy. He says, who is a God like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? Micah knows that no matter how bad things get, God's character doesn't change. He's still a God of forgiveness and compassion, and he will restore his people in the end. So in conclusion, lessons from Micah: justice, mercy, and humility. The Book of Micah may be a short, punchy book, but it's packed with timeless truths. Micah reminds us that God cares deeply about justice and integrity, and he won't stand by while people are oppressed or mistreated. But at the same time, he's a God of mercy, always ready to forgive and restore. Micah challenges us to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God, not just in our religious life, but in every part of our lives. It's a call to live differently in a world that often prioritizes power and wealth over kindness and truth. So the next time you're tempted to take shortcuts or overlook injustice, remember Micah's words. God's watching, and he's got bigger plans. Now you made it to the end. Welcome to Modern Testament Talks. Faith foundations, journaling, and drawing activity. Today's topic, you guessed it, the Book of Micah. Feel free to pause at any time so you can answer these questions without rushing it. Why do you think Micah focuses so much on the themes of justice, mercy, and humility? How do these reflect God's character? How can Micah's message about false leaders and prophets apply to us today? Where do you see injustice, and what can you do about it? Micah foretells the coming of a ruler from Bethlehem, Jesus. How does this promise of hope shape the way we view God's long-term plans for humanity? Think about a time when you saw injustice happening, whether in your community, your school, or even the world at large. How did it make you feel? Write about ways you can act justly in your daily life, even in small ways. What would it look like to walk humbly with God in those situations? Draw a picture of a set of scales representing justice. On one side, write the word justice, and on the other side, write mercy. Around the scales, draw images or words that represent what it means to walk humbly with God, like kindness, love, and forgiveness. The Book of Micah reminds us that justice and mercy matter deeply to God, and so should they matter to us. It challenges us to live with integrity, to be compassionate, and to walk humbly with God, trusting in his plan for restoration and hope.